So we still have a scale that consists of 7 notes, and we still want to look at building triads primarily, and also the context of sevenths in chords. So let's label each one of these notes accordingly. We're going to call a root, just like we did with the major scales, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to say, okay, we're going to take the root, the third, and the fifth, and that becomes an A minor triad. It is an A minor triad. It's the definition. However, we can also build a chord, for example, off of our B, in which case you wind up with B, D, and F. If you were to build a chord off of the third scale degree, C, you get C, E, and G. We're still going to use Roman numerals like we discussed earlier when we were looking at harmony in a major scale. But this time we get different uppercase and lowercase numerals. So our A chord, we're going to call it a 1, but it's going to be a minor 1 because it produces a minor chord. You're always going to find the 1 chord is a minor triad. So we have a minor 1, then we have a half-diminished 2, then we have a major 3, a minor 4, a minor 5, then we have a major 6, and a major 7. So this is a very different pattern of minor and major chords than what we experienced with the major scale, but it's still going to be true of all minor scales. So even if we were looking at the key of D minor, which contains a different set of 7 notes, we'd still find that in the scale of D minor, if we were to build the chords, the 1 chord would be minor, the 2 chord would be half diminished, 3 chord would be major, and so on. So the relationship of minor and half diminished to major chords and how they correlate and they're identified by Roman numerals is exactly the same for all minor scales, just as there was a common pattern for all major scales. So let me play a couple of these examples. If we have an A, a C, and an E, we get what we call an A minor chord. If we add the G, we get an A minor 7. If we play the chord rooted on B, we get B, D, F. And if we add the 7th, we get A. So both of those chords are in the key of A minor. Let's just listen to them. I'm just using the triads here. A minor, and then the B diminished triad. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, and then G major. So now we've talked about how to build major and minor scales. We've talked about how building chords from these scales produces a pattern of major and minor and sometimes half-diminished chords. And we've also correlated those chords to Roman numerals now. So you should understand very clearly what we're talking about when we talk about using a 1 chord or a 5 chord or a 2 chord and so on. As you work on your own progressions and you're building your harmonies, you want to think about chords in terms of numerals, primarily because it makes it very easy to move a chord progression from one key to another. So for example, if we were to play a 1, 4, 5 progression in the key of A major, you have something like this: A major, D major, and then E major. So 1, 4, 5 can also be played in any other key. So 1, 4, 5, the chord progression, the harmony doesn't have to change in terms of it being a 1, a 4, and a 5 chord, but we can migrate that to another key like C, where we still have a 1, 4, 5. However, we're playing 3 totally different chords. So the nice thing about using Roman numerals is that we can start thinking about patterns, but those patterns don't have to change during the process of our compositional work. The pattern can remain the same, and we can move it through different keys and see which keys maybe are more playable on the instrument that we're trying to use for that particular performance. So I highly recommend that you get used to always thinking in terms of numerals rather than individual chords. You still want to understand the notes that are in these triads, and you still want to recognize what key you're in and be able to use the letters. However, understand there are certain flexibilities to using numerals that you just don't have when you are tied to one key or one set of chords. Using their Roman numeral equivalents starts to kind of unleash some more creative direction, some more creative ideas, and allows you to flow around in the sort of larger scheme of music a little more fluidly. All right, so that's it for our discussion on building scales in chords. So in the next lesson, we're going to start exploring cadences.